Silly thing. Whew. It's Thursday. We got here. How we get here? Having some troubles. Probably making a lot of terrible noises, but we're good. We're good. It's Thursday. It's Thursday and we are kicking out Molly. We're using an amiibo. Rather unabashedly. Using an amiibo. Because her clock was ticking long ago, but hi Steph. What's up? How's it going? I have ice cream because reasons. We have important decisions to make about what amiibo we use because I got a whole pack of them right here. I bought 90 of them on Schmamachine. I don't know. Here's the deal. I have the Sanrio villagers. The camera's freaking out. This is fun. Oh. Helpful Husband is playing Skyrim right now with a bunch of mods on. Wow, there's so many choices here. So, like, I don't know. The choices here are endless. They're bootlegs, but you can tell because they're this size. So we have, whoa. I have all 6 of the Sanrios. So that is a possibility. I think I just accidentally launched the game because I yeeted my controller off of my desk. It has been yoked. So I'm thinking the frog stuffs. Yeah, so I've got Toby. Oh, he has the bridge. Oh, he has the bridge that I desperately need. Okay, so there is that. I mean, you can't deny the cuteness of Pom Pom Purin in Marty. The Kiki and Ayala stuff. Oh, I mean, except they gave the Hello Kitty stuff to a gorilla? I don't know. Rilla's nightmare fuel, in my opinion. So, but I have some bangers here, and I need to do some more sorting here. But I have some bangers here. I have just sitting in front of me right now, and I haven't like fully gone through and been like, who would I even consider? And I need to do that. The bangers I have in front of me right now: Bob, Marshall, Anka, Stitches, Meringue, Coco. Like that's just like cursory going through. This really cool wall thingy? What wall thingy? Okay, so Toby is ooching his way up to the top of the list. Wall thingy? Are you kidding me? Ones I would definitely consider having: Chevre. I didn't. I'm terrible. Focus. Hello? That's not a face. I've got Cherry, Chevre, and Pico in front of me, and I'm still just sort of like perusing. You know? Okay, we've got Margie. Oh, okay, another one I would consider is Blair. The skunk squirrel. I don't think it's gonna focus because it's having a moment here. No, she has refused it. So we've got Blair. That's another one I would consider. Tutu, no. Flora's cute, but no. Lucy, no. Sprinkle, no. Sherry, no. I'm good. Whitney, I mean, the wolves are always class, you know? Whitney the wolf. It's in a pirate lair. I mean, okay. You say pirate, you know. Oh, yeah. Best house. Okay, of course we have people we already have on our island that are in here. We've got Marina, Zucker, and Lionel. Those I've recovered. I think I've got, there's like 6 of the people. Portia the dog, Mitzi, Daisy. Daisy's adorable. That would be a maybe. Roscoe's a pass. Past him. We got Julian in this pack. The unicorn. Julian could be interesting. And also, because they're amiibo cards, we don't have to keep them around for long. Like, we can keep them around for a little bit. We also have to make room for Cephalobot. Like, Cephalobot is going to be on the island. I have to find him. Like, there will be villager hunts and maybe amiibo hunts. You know? The unicorn, right? Maple is one of those highly sought after ones. She's an adorable cub, but Mira. We've got Lyman, one of the, I think he's like an old man koala. That's pretty cute. Nana the monkey, Agent S, Olivia, Ruby. Eesh. Have Blue Bear. I know Blue Bear is also like real sought after. Here's Tia. Here's her amiibo. We've got Tia. Gaia the pig. Oh, that's a question. What happens if you call somebody with their amiibo that you already have on your island? What? That might be an interesting experiment to run. I have Diana. Diana can bully me all she wants with that eyeliner. Bo. Everybody loves Bo. We've got so many lazy boys, though, on our island. Melba. I can't do any other lions, so Elvis is going to be a pass. Goldie would be okay just because she's adorable. Bracolo, no. Those bangs, that was a bad decision. We got Lucky, the mummy dog. I mean, he's sought after. Everybody loves him. Rosie the cat. Kabuki. Kabuki's house is heckin' cool. And he's a cat with kabuki makeup. Excuse you. Tiffany. I mean, Tiffany's trying to do the Hollywood starlet thing. I don't know. I don't know if it's landing for her, though. But she keeps trying, and we respect it. Hamlet. That's... Graham is the hacker hamster. He's the hamster I actually want. Eventually. Rolf is a pass. Francine is a pass. Lolly is a pass. Kitty's a pass. Punchy. Colton. We've got Fauna. Fauna I know is also pretty sought after. Apollo. That's another banger. Cookie the dog. Adorable, but probably not. Hello, Atkins. Thank you for jumping in and chatting. We're trying to figure out what amiibo we're replacing Molly with. Lily. Lily is a banger. Everybody loves Lily. Tom the cat. Sky. I've got Flurry. I think Flurry's a normal, though. We've got too many normals. Pinky. Oh, I've got Chrissy and Francine. So I've got the bunny, the rabbit sisters, if we ever want to try that. Rhonda. Chester. Kid the goat. He's pretty cute. Chief. I mean, everybody seeks out the wolves pretty highly. Joey the duck. Freya, Chief, and Mary. Okay, so Toby is very, just because of the bridge item and like a couple of other things. Also, he's adorable. Like, it's all the frog stuff from the amiibo stuff. So that could be good. That could be very good. I don't know. We're considering. We're thinking. I gotta narrow it down. There has to be a narrowing down. So Toby's at the top there. Most definitely. Kabuki's house is hella cool. And Pico's house, because her house is hella cool too. I think that's the 3 I've got to narrow it down to. I just got ice cream on my mic. Perfect. It's one of those nights, you know? Good for the equipment. Wonderful. Okay. Terrible noises ensue. Okay, I'm gonna... Here we go. We're gonna jump on Discord and check out. I'm on a struggle bus right now. Listen. It's been a day. Let's see. Oh. I mean, listen. I think if nothing else, just because it's the amiibo villager that has the bridge, but also I can't remember what the frog's name was from the Sanrio stuff, but I always really liked him. Like there was I don't think it was a Daiso, but there was some kind of Japanese shop in Hilo, Hawaii that we would go to, and we would get like the little star candies, freaking adorable and so tasty. Like I love this little star candy. And we would get like the candy sushi palettes. So I don't know. It's very tempting to do, and we would get like Hello Kitty and other Sanrio merch there. Whoa. And stuff you couldn't normally find in the States. Well, whatever it is about Hilo, Hawaii in particular, there's a lot of like Japanese-ish shops there. Like I don't know what that's about, but they have one of the only 7-Elevens in the States that actually does like the Japanese 7-Eleven stuff. Like they have good like they have a whole wall of ramune. Like, excuse you? I've been to Hilo how many times, and I did not know that their 7-Eleven was on the level of Japanese 7-Elevens. Like, vacationing has changed. So, Toby, Pico, Kabuki. Okay. We're gonna switch to the browser. Everything's gotten screwed up. This isn't gonna work, is it? Shoot. Let's shoot. I don't think this is gonna work because I think everything's screwed up. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna work. I don't have this properly set up. So I don't think this is gonna be a thing. But oh no! I screwed up my camera somehow, and I have to figure out what I did and what happened. All that fun stuff. Okay. Oh, lemon peel gummies. It's okay. And our camera is set up. We can do this. I have done no decorating for spooky season on my island. I've been so focused on other things. So this afternoon I was just hanging out with my family, like talking. And I just put up a couple of pumpkin lanterns because I was like, I have to do something. Looks cute.
Absolutely.
He's holding up like hot obsidian?
Oh.
Uh-huh.
The rock.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, don't do that. Okay. So that's like all the spooky season decorating I have done. Very minimal. Like so minimal. Okay, I'm actually gonna take off. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna okay, I don't need this. Those headphones are going. I ordered replacement headphones. And they're gonna be just like earbuds because I can't handle those headphones anymore. They're hot and what? East Park for Spooky Park! No, that's a good plan. I like that plan a lot. Okay, can we play Animal Crossing and eat ice cream at the same time? We will find out. Okay. I think we have time. And just for funsies, Toby would be great. Hi, Judy. She's out here, like, hanging out, just vibing. Marina! Look at her. Molly, she's so unsuspect. Everybody's in the plaza. Look at this. It's not everybody, but it's so many people. Okay. I'm not ready to give up my old man Dobie. Not yet. School, yeah, skull squeezing, migraine given, especially if you have glasses. I'm not giving up my old man yet. I like him. He knew. He knew it was like, maybe I should go. And I'm like, nobody. Nobody. I know. Okay. Zucker has definitely asked me a couple of times now. Formig 20, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you for coming and hanging out. Appreciate you clicking the follow button. My name is Zoe. I do random things on the internet. Today, I'm unfollowing a duck because she made Zucker cry. What? This man. Okay. Amiibo! What? The 8-bit dough can't read Amiibo. These ones. My cool as hell retro controller. You're being ethereal right now? Okay, hold up. Okay, so maybe that's the problem? I haven't been able to get this controller to hook up, though. See? But apparently this is a normal problem with pros in general, is like they don't like to... Okay. Well... I like to do... I don't like it. Whoa. Almost shut down my whole stream on accident. That would have been embarrassing. Alright, here we go. Phase 2. This is turning out to be a very messy ice cream cone, and I do not appreciate it. Yes. Okay, here we go. We're doing Toby. Okay. His catchphrases, Ribbit. It's not allowed. It's not allowed. Too heckin' cute. Yes, you come on. Oh, I'm gonna bonk that. I'm having issues over here tonight. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'm gonna try and clean up the back of my mic real quick. This mic is never gonna be the same. Oh no. Okay. Oh boy! Okay, here we go. You're being rude. You know that? Falling down an ish. Okay, so did that. I'm gonna keep separate the ones that I have and the ones that I have had on the island, and I'm also gonna keep separate those that I would consider moving in. Now I know what's next, which is the process of bringing them gifts until they decide that they want to hang out and stay with you. So we're gonna do some of that. So here we go. Oh dear. Yeah? Ooh, she's itchy. Alright. Oh. Judy the fairy princess. Being all cute as heck. Oh, how did I get? Oh, I have to go through the pumpkin patch. Okay, here we go, here we go, here we go. Oh no! Listen, I didn't even hear your plane fly over, sir. How? How? Spooky season. So we have our skull. Ready to go. Oh no! Hi, buddy. It's been a while since I've been camping. Okay. Palak paneer. Mm. A golden candlestick? A golden candlestick. Just over here in my campsite being bougie as hell, apparently. Alright. Oh. Okay, so golden candlestick for the man. Alright. What do I need to do that? Two gold nuggets. Okay, maybe it's not that bad. She says, not knowing if she even has any gold nuggets to begin with. Hopefully he doesn't need much more of these bougies. God damn. Okay, all done for now. I think it's 3 things you have to craft for them when you invite them in using an amiibo. Okay, I brought it for you. Yes, I am. Yep, here you go. Alpinist overalls. Thank you, I guess. Okay. Shoot, wait, what? Wait, is that it? Or do you have to invite them back 3 separate days? Wait, hang on. How do we do this? How amiibo campers? Amiibo camper move in. How? I've watched people do this before and now I cannot remember. Each day. Talk to them, ask them, based on our tests as well as player, villagers will decline the first 2 times. However, on the 3rd time, they'll say yes. So we have to do this separate days. So, all right. I don't want to hit time lock events real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna really quick, just because I see it. It's gonna be there. Okay. You only want Anka and the chances are nil. Oh man. Okay. So the evil plan is to try and pre-order some amiibo cards. Some series 5s. And whatever duplicates I get, this is the evil plan. I don't even know how easy it's going to be to get my hands on amiibo cards up here. The cat, she's hard to find. Because I don't know how well things are gonna go with trying to get amiibo cards up here, especially with all the weird stuff that's happening right now. It's not a guarantee, but I'm gonna try to get to like give away duplicates. If it depends on how many I get, depends on how many I can get my hands on. But we want to do duplicate giveaways. Would be super good. Oh, yeah, weird. I mean, it would be so it would be super cheap. It would still be kind of cheap up here to do it. You know, weirdo shipping with all over the place. But like, you know, I would go and get some cute thank you cards and that sort of fun stuff. Like it would all be adorable and stuff. But, you know, shipping is weird right now, so we'll see. Okay, so here we go. Toby's card again. This is gonna take some time. I can already tell. Oh, it's okay because we get to see Isabelle more in her hat. Yay! Still no news on her brother. Apparently. Oh my goodness. Cheers, Isabelle. All right. Well, the hardest part of this is going to be getting down to resident services. Oh, 5 p.m. You want to hit the time lock? Okay. I might rewind it a couple of days so that oh my, look at Eric. Ooh, Eric's got some barbecue going in the plaza. Ooh, oh man, now I want shrimp skewers. Eat shrimp skewers. You, sir. Hey, we getting our bonus miles. Oh, the grind. I don't even know. Okay. Yes. Yes, I do. Go. It's Toby. Hey, Toby. Yes, we're inviting him back. This man. Guten Tag. That's French for good tag. Yes, campsite's open. You know, from the last time. Yeah, the more inclines. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna do. Ooh, Ooh, Steffe leveled up to a Marquis or Marchioness. Depends, you know, take whatever title you want. I don't know what those actually do. I set them up and now it is just a thing. Here you go. But there you go. You now have the title of Marquis or Marchioness. May choose your title. What are you the Marquis or Marchioness of? We designated Wizard Way Chris of K-pop and fantasticalness, so you know, you do you. I'm getting stuck on bushes. I need to move the bamboo because that is not a good spot for them. Lady of the Ton. Yes. Yes. We love. Yes. Yes. I love it. I'm all about it. Hi. Oh, is that a lollipop? Gonna lie, the Fascinator also adorable. Okay. Just a wild idea. Make something Neverland tea. Acoustic guitar. Leaving tomorrow for forever. That's what you think. All right. To the house. I think those other things are fossils too. They're not bamboo. So, alrighty. Do I have the? Oh no, they'll give you the amiibo if you don't have the thing to make it. Oops. Oh gosh, I have stuff to put into storage. Got an alpinist overalls now, so there's that. All right, the acoustic guitar. Let's see here. It's a thing that I never make. So, softwood, perfect. So much softwood. I need to just craft all the things out of softwood. Look at all this. Look at all this shit. I need to craft all the things out of softwood and just sell them to the Nooklings. Just be like, take these. My God. I need them out of my house. Actually, I have a lot of iron too, so I could just sell them a bunch of acoustic guitars. Although I feel like I'm gonna need a lot of stuff in a bit. Acoustic. Oh, no. I lied. No. Okay. Lady Cofferton of Shelley Woods. Yes. The Marquette is your Marquess. Wait, except what's the... Her Grace? Because I don't think we're allowed to call you Lady. You're a Marquess. This is reaching. Hang on. Marquess for form of address. Listen. Oh, Lord or Lady. Okay, good. Okay, so we can't. Okay, we can still call you a Lord or Lady. That's okay. Lady. So you can still be. Yes. Mary Shelley. Yes. We love the coffee here. The coffee is going to be it's going to be a big deal here on now. Brewster, the Brewster is going to be our bud. Okay, we know an addict of the craft of making coffee, but also, you know, this is caffeine. The neurodivergence needs some help. Yes, I made you an acoustic guitar. You gave me the anime eyes. Help. Was him a lot more famous? You're already pretty famous. Like, let's be honest. Through material goods. Old school jacket. Okay, 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 okay. Yeah, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, Toby. Yep, the entire process of copy is super important. Exactly. Okay, I have got some ish to do before Halloween. Oh no! Cannot have that. Stay off of my gold roses. There's the green mums you gave me. This is my farming plot. We're gonna keep the flowers we're trying to hybrid. Oh, the circle worked. The circle worked. Summoning circle for the win. Here's the green bulbs. I'm already propagating more. It's working. It's great. I'm very happy with it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I did my hyacinths too, but I want to propagate some more of those green mums because the green mums are cool. They're so cool. Oh, and those tea olives. Okay, I need to move the tea olives because they are in the season. It does not take super long for the bushes to propagate. It's just for the bushes to grow. So you little bastards, you know, like you already know, Dad, because you're just the best everywhere. Like no matter where you at, you know. Okay, maybe I can find. I also have a honey tree. Oh, here we go. I don't think I have much in my pockets. Fart. Don't have much in my pockets. Did this grow? Hey, coming through. Don't worry about it. Oh, I need to move these panels. So, okay. Goodness. And I need to finish the museum, but like who has that? Who has the fucking time? I gotta finish the museum, and I'm not big on fishing. Maybe once we get this last iteration done, we'll have time to do museum things. Highly doubt that. I highly doubt all of that. But that's all right. Okay. Okay. Okay, now I had money to do the money tree properly. Now we have money to do the money tree properly even more. So, oh goodness. Ah. It has been a day. Both of my kids decided that they wanted to do Minecraft themed costumes again because they love Minecraft. They've done Minecraft a couple of years now. Last year they wanted to be Minecraft bats, and so we made them little hoodies that had little bat wings, and they're adorable. Hi, Beetle! Listen, the multiple houses are super pricey. How's it going, Beetle? Beetle! Oh, I need to remember because we have a PO box now, out of necessity, because we can't get a. We probably could get a mailbox, but it's safer to get a PO box. We have a PO box now, so I might be posting that eventually. I know a couple people have said that they want to do stuff, which is real sweet. Like, I'm just an idiot who doesn't stream consistently, and y'all are being just way too nice about it. So this is where the noob will go, because this is Molly's house here. I'm just gonna try and dig up her foundation. So this is Molly's house here. So this is where Toby will be. This is the little plot he'll move into, and this needs to get filled out. It made it a little nicer, obviously, because this is going to be kind of like a flux space. Like whoever's moving in here is going to be kind of like the shifting in and out person. Like whoever we decide with amiibos, or whoever we just find and decide to keep for a bit. But I want to have a spot that like I can just invite. Like, if the person asks to move out, I'm not going to be super sad about it. Like, I just want to have somebody who's flexible, you know? I kind of wish that we got more plots. I'm not getting picked up each, so... You gotta get me YMCA'd. Yeah, just like a floater person. You, sir, are gonna get me YMCA'd. He's lucky he's cute. Oh, he did? That is... Oh, okay. Can we please, though, but for cereal, can we buy a 3D printer? Because I have some ideas. Yeah, you could. I could just have just nice music playing and just like constantly be printing ish. It would be a thing. Maybe that is what the the happy home designer will let us do. I actually hold up. Is it available? Because I know it's available at midnight, but I'm in Alaska, so I'm gonna have to hide my screen while I make a purchase here in a second. What? Nothing? I'm just gonna put your whole debit card on the internet.
I will take your computer.
I'm not gonna do that.
I'll pay for that sucker.
Are you? Hello? Is he here? Hello? Not here yet. I'm gonna pout. It's fine. I'm really excited about the Happy Home Paradise stuff, though. That's gonna be super duper fun. Actually, I think the Papa Man is gonna take the kids on that Friday, and we're gonna get our schoolwork done so that the boys can go and play with Papa and go have fun and all sorts of good stuff. And then sometime on that day, we're just gonna go live, and we're gonna be live for like we're just gonna hang, and we're gonna play the new update. We're gonna play the DLC. We're just gonna wild out. It's gonna be super good. It's gonna be, I'm super looking forward to it because I just want to like sit down and play for like 6 hours, maybe 10, maybe 14. Maybe we'll order lunch and we'll just be real crazy. Except I can't. I'm so out in the sticks. I'm not actually out in the sticks. That's the weird thing. Like this location where we're at, because it's just been here for forever. This has been here since the 60s. Hello. One day we'll do a house tour soon because this place is amazing. It's not that long ago. What the? I know. We lived in Seattle. We lived in a home that was like. Nuh-uh.
It's the point.
There's houses that have been around since the gold rush, yep, which was in the early 1900s. Yep. I know, it's hyperbole, but still, for whatever reason. Yes, I fully realize that. I've been in a lot of them. For whatever reason, like the delivery apps are like, nah, this place doesn't exist. But why though? So I might have to like make sure I have lunch. I'm gonna have to make sure I have like lunch on hand ready to go for like lunch break time. But we're just gonna hang out and do the thing. Just play for a really long time. I corrupted Sean. He shows up in chat as Klaxon. Corrupted Sean. Mostly he just wants to like hang out and fish, I think. It's relaxing. It's not relaxing for me, but you know, he enjoyed it. Maybe it was houses with history on the Discovery Channel. Fun. That sounds nerdy and fun, and I am all about that. We embrace nerds here. We're all about it. Oh, okay. I think that's not gonna be the last fossil, because we've got the like the multiple days of fossils going on, so. Yeah, no, that sounds super good. That sounds like a mixture of this old house and like, I don't know, Unsolved Mysteries and ish. That sounds like, yes. I'm gonna have to go check that out. Sounds really good. Okay, okay. Oh, shoot. Where would this other one be? Okay, we're gonna go look in Zucker's Market real quick. I love Zucker's Market. Zucker's Market took me a hot minute to figure out, but I'm really happy I did. Extremely old houses, like pre-revolution stuff. Dig up the house history while making it glorious. So it's History Channel meets Fixer Upper. I could be into this. I could be into this. This could be good. This could be cool as fuck. Oh, I can't get to these weeds. Yeah. Okay, cool. Oh, ow. I love it. I love all of it. I'm about it. I'm about it. Okay. I'm curious. I'm also, the ADD is spiking because sugar. So we're gonna. There we go. Oh, shoot. Is it? Is it though? Have you caught a silver salmon? Mile grind and like resources grind and stuff. That's all stuff I gotta do, mostly off stream, but yes. The miles grind is gonna be for real. I have to figure you have to do Halloween because we're making costumes, because nobody's gonna make a redstone monstrosity, because that's what my kids want to be from Minecraft Dungeons, because they play a lot of Minecraft Dungeons. Captain and coffee. Okay, talk to neighbors. I have to talk to 3. Oh, that's 400. Okay. And flowers. Okay. Fine. Let's go talk to these guys. You know, the villagers that I hunted for and actually kind of dearly love. Adorable. Okay, we'll go talk to 3 of them. We're not talking to Molly. Yeah, beach. Yeah, let's go see who's at the plaza. I'm getting hung up on Halloween stuff. Oh, she had to be grilling. We're gonna talk to Norma. How have you been? Has it been that long? It has not been that long since I've logged in. What are they talking about? Right? No, we're oh, I should most definitely be talking about the process on Instagram, because it is a process. Like, I've got boxes. Yes. You don't have to blow your cover. Okay, so Norma thinks we're a super spy now. This is fun. Because I've been burying bells. Okay. Joe's getting confused because my grandma's named Norma. Oh my goodness. I could be though. You made Zucker cry. Not okay. Oh, hello, Sahara. He's gonna put a curse on it and he's gonna sell it to Marina. That's what this man's gonna do. Like, let's not mince words here. This man is going to put a curse on a jacket that he's probably going to just take off of me. Okay, he's gonna ask for bells, but is it worth Marina's mental security? This man. How much? Maybe, can we upsell him? Or haggle him up? Let's haggle. That's just not interested. Was it worth it? Was it worth? I don't know. I don't know. Find out. I'm gonna go water flowers now. Hi, Sahara. Hey, listen. I'll see you at the pop-up. Okay. 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 Bye, girl. I'm gonna get you. Oh my gosh. I don't even know how much. I need to double. There's no way to know because they didn't show how much money it's gonna take to open up those pop-ups. Pop-ups are gonna be expensive. This man. Someone come get this. Okay. Oh, I do have my. Oh. Cracked that forever ago. What? Wait. Is this a Halloween thing I don't have? Wait a second. Hold up. Wait a second. What is this? Oh, I bought one of these. Oh, I can make more. I bought one of these, and now I can make more of them. I'm actually really excited about that. I'm just gonna pull a full plural chin. Should I go get it? Okay, I'm gonna water these. I didn't realize there were spooky recipes that I didn't have. Each color is different. Oh, okay, hold up. Now it's way above me. It's not gonna work. 360 no scope. Oh shoot, that was actually kind of good. Oh wait. Ah. Okay. There's a spooky treats packet. I didn't get it in the fire. Yeah, I get it. It's a math joke. So, my precious candy. 2 whole days worth of candy? Do you see the knife? Do you see the knife here? Oh. still cute as hell, and I will probably make all of them in all of the colors because, oh my gosh. I did that whole thing with Lynette last year, and it was a lot of fun because I gave her like a bunch of stuff, and she was very excited about it, which, like, anytime we get Lynette to make the happy squealy noises, which is just excited about the things, you can carry it. Oh my god. Okay, I'm good. I'm fine. Scheiße. Choking on my own spit. I wish it was on brand, but it's just not. It's just gross. Okay. I'm not ready for any of that. Whew. There it is. Comes through. Ugh. I don't think I can get any more of these pumpkins now because you have to water them once a day. So we'll pick the pumpkins. I don't know. I want to do spooky season stuff again with Lynette, but I also don't. I also want to just like hard grind on the update stuff. So I don't know. Throwing out a couple of pumpkin items though couldn't hurt, and it'll make Halloween feel fun. Then we sell the Halloween items and we earn a bunch of bells after. Rude. Alright. Go buy another watering can real quick. And then we're gonna move to the next day so we can get Toby on this island and get Molly the hell off. Another benefit here is Zucker was literally the first or second villager that I invited because I found him on a random villager hunt. It wasn't even a hunt. I was just like, I'm gonna just go to an island and I have plots open. And he was just there and I was like, Zucker. So he's been on my island the longest out of everybody. It's right there. Oh, that's cute as hell. Guys, you know that's cute as hell, right? Okay, cool. Just making sure. You're gonna go to bed? Okay. Good night. I love you. Okay, everybody say goodnight to Huffle Husband. He's gonna go to bed. You're not a Huffle Husband anymore? What are you? Just a man. Man. Way to dream. Still in crypto. I'm mining. You're cute. I'll take that to the trash in a minute. Rude. Yeah, that works. Anything else look interesting? Oh, I guess I'll buy the candy so I can make the cute as hell treat baskets. Steph says goodnight. Graceful Annie says goodnight. Also, good evening, Graceful Annie. You haven't popped in chat yet. Thanks for lurking. Appreciate you. Can't escape the Hufflepuff. Oh, yeah? A night-night song? You mean a lullaby? Night-night song. Give him my pillows to cover his eyes. He's lucky he's cute. Ooh, purple roses. Propagating. I can't hear you. You're talking into a pillow. Can I help you, madam? They're plotting. Oh, no, I know. Y'all see this shit? Y'all see this shit? I bet you she's the one who's important for him. Selling. She's the one who's importing the cursed shit. This man, sir? Yeah, we meet again. What's up? Are you talking to Sahara? She's bringing you stuff? She never seems to want to engage with me. I wonder, because the vibe check. This man. It's so hot with ears. both computers running in this teeny tiny room. Oh my goodness. It's real warm. Like, me and the boys opened up the door in here once and it was like 75 degrees. She never seems to. You have to like keep talking to her. He's cursing his hair. There we go. There we go. Oh my goodness. Did y'all see anything? Y'all see any like this man? Oh, real tomatoes now too. I have a lot of crap in my pockets right now. Okay. All right. Okay. We're gonna time travel tomorrow, and then maybe Toby will move in. We'll see. Man. Let's do. Oh, nothing's gonna be open. 5 a.m. music. We'll do like. Here we go. Here we go. Ah, it's gonna cross my legs. Ooh, it is almost time. Actually, to. You need me to go to bed? Poor Alphonse, babe. Poor Joe. There's also the. You can always go snuggle the boys. Okay. Did you have Red Bull before bed? Oh. Oh. It might. You never know. Okay. Actually, so what we're going to do before we go into the last portion of trying to get Toby on the island so we can kick Molly out, it is bio break time, which here on this channel we have some very simple rules. If we're pulling the car over for one person, then we're pulling the car over for everybody, and everybody's got to get out and go. So that means go to the bathroom, grab some water, grab a snack, do what you need to do. If that's not what you need to do right now, I'm going to play some music. Get your wiggles out, and we're going to be back in 5, okay? So, go take care of your ish, and we'll go be right back. Okay, here we go. I just realized that there was no songs through any of that, and I'm very sorry. Oh, Steph, I'm gonna take my tail to bed because it's 3 a.m. here. Oh my goodness, I didn't see that. Well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out, Steph. I'm probably not here anymore. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming and hanging. It's good. Pause on that. Switching to this. And we're gonna go back in. And we're gonna keep trying. Get this man on this island. You okay, sir? You have like the 1,000-yard stare going. Oh no. Oh no. Alright, let's see what Miss Isabel has. Your little orange and black is so cute. So cute. Spooky season. We drink from the skulls of our enemies. Octavian! Oh. Keep yourself healthy, gotta be strong if you want to go toe to toe with me. Get strong, you gotta recover wealth, and that means watching plenty of TV and lounging around. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Alright. Judy! She's so cute. Oh wait, I'm going the wrong. Well, I can get there from here actually. Yeah, I'm gonna put up all of those permanent ladders. They're just gonna be everywhere. I'm super excited about it. Oh, I can't get around these two walls with the kids there. Okay. Okay. Let's see if this Toby man. Oh. Tomorrow is gonna be, I think, for. Well, it's gonna be for building Halloween costumes for the boys. But it's also gonna be for, I think, Nook Miles grinding. Just like hang out every now and again. Like whenever I got a free moment, whip out the Switch. And just try to grind out some Nook Miles. Like those bonus missions and stuff. Gotta get that ish done. To alert the paparazzi. Please don't listen to helicopters and they buzz the island. They're always demanding like all of the bougie drinks. These silly paparazzi. Oh, stretching time. The stretching time in the plaza with the new update. Don't know how often I'm gonna take it. We might do a little, just because it's adorable as heck. Oh no, we'll see. We'll see. I love the monochromatic line. Hi, Tia. Yeah, I can't get through there because I put decorations there. New pathing AI. Interesting. Okay. See you, Animal Crossing. What are you doing? Yeah, I see you at Stonehenge. What are you doing? Over here at Stonehenge. What do you think you were doing, my man? Good sir. Judy, keep an eye on him. never goes over there trying something. Man. Not here for it, sir. Thank you. I'm good. Hi, Toby. Yeah, no worries. Creme caramel. Oh, you look around. Don't worry about it. Log steaks. Sure. Yeah, yeah, okay. Log steaks. Log steaks are easy. First thing he requests is golden candlestick, being bougie as hell. Now he wants log steaks. Sure, just, you know, the cottagecore aesthetic staple. Everybody has those. Okay, let's find out here. Log steaks. We will find out. It's just wood. Oh, these. Just wood. Have a lot of boba? Ooh, I need to do something about that. Yeah, resources. That's gonna be a thing. Yeah. The resources thing is gonna be... The resources and Nook Miles. Also in that is gonna have it's gonna have to be grinding out the turnips stuff. We're gonna play a little bit. We'll see what we can do. I've never had much luck with the stock market, so as long as you don't go back in time, though, that's when your turnips rot. If you go forward, it's okay. What I found anyway. Yep, here you go. Interpretive dance. Wow. That was a whole thing. Oh my. All right. Make it happen. Here we go. Here we go. Negotiate. Go for it. Legalese for a parting capoeira lawyer. Attorney at play. Capoeira lawyer. I would watch that. Capoeira needs more like media presence because capoeira is weird. I love it. Tell me who you want to boot. Okay. I'm just really quick. Really fucking quick. There's backstory here, and it's very important because listen, you don't mess with Zucker. I don't care whose island you are on. You don't mess with Zucker. Zucker is an octopus. He is an octopus that looks like a takoyaki. He's adorable. He's also like weirdly meta. He says stuff that other people don't say. Okay? Look up some people's stories with Zucker in particular if you're curious. One of which is like this girl who made a memorial to her grandparents, and Zucker stopped by and was like, oh, I was gonna sit in this rocking chair, but I didn't because, you know, what if grandma wanted to come by and take a seat? This man. So anyway, you don't mess with Zucker. One day I come up on Molly and Zucker talking, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna hang out. And like, Molly's real cute. She's real sweet. She's like this cute little normal villager. They start having an argument about snacks, and like Zucker says he's enjoying his snacks this way, and then Molly says that that's wrong, and then Zucker is crying, like full on crying. He came to me crying. Meanwhile, this girl was just like, what? I don't know. What? You don't mess with Zucker. Clock started ticking. Then she started doing weirdish around the island. Like, she's trying stuff. That's why we're kicking out Molly. Because I'm just like, rule number one, you don't make Zucker cry about snacks, his favorite thing. Make him feel insecure about his snacks. Rude. No. Not how this works. Okay, so Toby feels a little prima donna, but we'll see. We'll see if he's down. Very excited. Yeah, I'm sure. That's right. It's hardball a sport? I thought it was called baseball for some. Read it. Turns out she was about to move anyway. Oh, was she? Interesting. Artisanal carrot cake shop? Sign me up. Like buttercream frosting and super spicy carrot cake? Sign me up. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Why is my Molly being mad at Zucker? Like me mean at Zucker. I'm glad. Yeah, that's me. Legendary. You know, because you gave me a floater for a second. Well, I'm glad that yours was nicer. I do have Zucker's amiibo. It would be interesting to move him out because, okay, so Zucker was one of my first villagers, which means he doesn't have his house, which his house is super duper cool. It would also mean starting over on like the best friendship with Zucker, which would be okay. Zuckerberg. It's hilarious that it corrected that. Ma'am, okay, you gonna go report him to Tom Nook for me? Is that where you? Yeah, I see. Hi girl. How's it going? No. Yeah. All right. I know I'm terrible at this, my girl. What's going on? Yeah, it corrects it to Zuckerberg and that's everything. That's hilarious. Mini rant, not rant. Facebook rebranding to Meta. Can you stop being a sci-fi horror picture for like 5 minutes, Zuckerberg? That'd be great. I appreciate that. Meta. The metaverse. It's so... Anyway. I didn't hear what it... I didn't read any of that. I'm gonna have to go back and read that. What was that about, girl? Look at her, look at her sporting the tank top that I designed with the green skull because it's cute as fuck. Look at her. So cute. So cute. Okay. How fast is it? How fast do they just start packing their shit? Let's see. Is it now? Is like... Oh, shit. She gone, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye. Oh, she's wearing this shirt, though. That's adorable. Hey. Hi there. Yeah. Don't worry about it. I mean, Molly's in boxes if you want her. Be warned, this one will make Zucker cry. Okay. Let me just double check with my what my Nook Miles stuff is real quick. We gotta do other grinding off stream, but maybe I can. Oh, okay. We can do. Oh, the DIY is ×5. Complete 2 things and talk to 1 person. Okay. That's ×5. That's the ×5. Really quick. Oh, I should check my beach too. I haven't been checking my beach. Marina with her mermaid princess outfit. Look at her. She is here. I love Marina. She is simply the best. She's so cute. I mean, I just love the octopus. So excited about Cephalobot. I'm so excited about villager hunts for Cephalobot, even if it's just no Weebo cards. Like, Cephalopod, Cephalobot hunts are here. It's gonna be fun. We have a lot of other work to do around the island. First, we're gonna go get that man. Go get him, because we have our mermaid cove all set up. Hi. I'm sorry, girl. It's gone. Oh. Sorry, my girl. Okay, there's another 6. Fantastic. Ugh. So, oh, she's just sitting under bamboo. So cute. God. And there's Zucker up under that bamboo. Oh my goodness. I actually don't know what the exterior of Toby's house looks like. So this is gonna be an adventure. My weeds up here are just gonna be out of control. The running to-do list for 2.0 is just becoming. I have my farm ready. I just need to like move some stuff. But the farm is ready so we can do gyroids and we can do all of the other things and stuff. And then I think the Mystery Islands are the only place, like the new Mystery Islands with our man Kappa are the only ways to get. I don't know how to get ingredients. It might be Leaf. Leaf might be the first person that we have to hunt down at that plaza. So this is also just like 100% speculation. I don't actually know. I feel like a lot of this was gonna get trickled. And then, like, specifically during, like, the summer of this year, Japan had some pretty rough times with COVID, which is why I think a lot of this stuff was delayed. Because working remotely, like, these larger studios are just not equipped to do so. So, I think that's what happened, is that a lot of this stuff got delayed until now because COVID. So that's 100% speculation. I know nothing, but I think that's what happened because there's a lot of stuff happening here. This isn't a trickle down thing. This is like a wabam, 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 wabam. It's so much stuff, and I think that's just how it happened. So okay, we have oh my goodness. So this is where I put a bridge across here because I feel like that's gonna be cute. This is Lionel's Cursed Antiques shop. We're just gonna put a bunch of stuff over here. Excuse you, sir. Excuse you, sir. Can you maybe not? It is like, what is he doing? What is he doing over there? I don't trust it. I don't trust it for a goddamn second. I should have roped him off when I had the chance. Just secluded, quarantined. You got cursed-ish? I'm gonna keep you over here. I don't know. Like, he's just standing there, like, singing in a tabard? What the fuck is that? Like, in a tabard. Like, a Freemason. Like, this is some... This is some Templar-ish. That's what this is. A lot of them were still doing it. A lot of the Templars were executed for sorcery, and most of them was like, you know, it's pretty hard to get a useful confession under torture, as we found out with most of the witch trials and everything else. But that still was a thing that happened. But now, you know, the Freemasons are still kind of under scrutiny. But I don't know about this. This is sus. This is hell. Look, a surprise box. What do we got? Oh, beautiful antique thing. Okay. Hey, boys. Please take dinosaur bones off my hands. That's what we are after. Actually, we're gonna sell all of this ish. I don't need this. Okay. Oh, wait, almost forgot one. Oh. Oh, the amber. I'm keeping an eye on him, because if after today Marina comes at me with more of that, like, oh, my lights were flickering ish, you know I'm not messing around with that. I'm gonna be like, this man was singing around a stone circles. Trilithons are important. Stone circles are places that are important. Almost every culture recognizes this. This man is standing there singing around it. He thinks he's doing something, and that might be enough. You know? This man. We'll suss it out. We'll suss out what his ritual is here. Because, like, I'm all about rituals. I'm all about having habits and good routines and all of this stuff. I don't think this is a good routine. I'm pretty sure this is a toxic routine. Have your daily routines. Do whatever you need to do. This is a toxic routine. Causing harm to others. You're making Marina lose her place in books. Excuse you, that's rude. Rude as fuck. Do your rituals. Do whatever you need to do in order to just, like, stay sane as a human. Don't curse Marina. Come on now. That's the line. Is this ridiculous? I realize this is pretty silly. But also it's kind of like, okay. I'm gonna go check my beaches real quick. Because beaches. I want to go see if I have the DIY. DIY grind is also, like, I just found out that there's really cute Halloween stuff that I don't have the DIYs to. Listen. It's now going to be a whole thing. There are going to be more stuff in November too. Really like the mush stuff. The mushroom stuff. I just saw somebody, I need to post this in the Discord because it's such an interesting theme. Somebody did a swamp core theme, and so it's all like black and dark green and ish, and I need it. Does anybody need the shell arch? It's on my I need to actually post that in my own Discord where I set the stuff up. I have a shell arch DIY if anybody's looking for the shell arch DIY. There we go. Yeet. looking for the bottle on my beach, so then we can go see what Toby has in his really cool house. Boo doo 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 doo. Gotta move all those flowers off the beach. Doodly doodly doodly. Okay, these flowers have got to get off my beach so that I can hunt with my stuff. What? Yeah. Flap. Okay. Where is the bottle on the beach? Oh, Toby, I really hope that you enjoyed. There it is. Just out of curiosity. Just for shits and giggles. It's a pretty big shadow. Yeah. I don't think he's gonna do that. I don't think that's gonna work. Nope, doesn't ever work. There we go. Okay, let's see here. Nope, pretty sure I have that. Yeah, I have that. Okay, now I have the kettlebell too. If anybody needs the kettlebell. Bustle. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna move to tomorrow, but we can't go past 5 because that's when the event is time locked. That's when the Halloween event is time locked. So, unfortunately, I don't stream on Sundays, and that evening's gonna be well packed because I have children. So. Okay, let's just go see what Toby's got going on. And then I think we're going to end it for tonight because I don't want to... Joe's asleep. He's snoring. Yeah, the mic's not picking him up on that. Thank goodness. Okay. It's just... Whew. It's so good to get Molly off of the island. I'm just like, ugh. Real cute. She is really cute. She got real nasty real quick, and I was like, what is this woman doing? Woo. Oh, okay. Well, this is a Sunday, so there's Daisy May. Hello, good morning. There's Lionel. I gave him that scarf shirt real early on. He's also kind of one of the OGs. Wears it a lot. I'm like, he's trying real hard to be a hipster. You know? And here she is in her hat, being all cute. Goodness gracious. Hold on. It's Halloween! Of course she forgets because Tom Nook keeps her cooped up behind that desk. I wonder if come how it's like a Halloween costume and ish. All right, let's go see. It's got like a. It's got like a square on my map. Like it's not fully ready. Like it's. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Like it's under construction. Oh no, it is. Oh, we should have gone ahead 2 days. Toby's new home. Aha. Okay. Just cause it's time to wrap things up, we're gonna move. We're gonna move ahead just a little bit. Oh, there we go. Okay. By the way, this cup is sticking around post Halloween. Drinking out of the skulls of our enemies. That's just branding. Listen. So yes. We might need to name him. He might need to be Jeffrey. I don't know. What not Jeffrey. Not that Jeffrey. Not or Jeffrey. That's no. Like Jeffrey. We won't kill him. That's not how we're gonna do. So that would make the Lynette sad, first and foremost. No, we need the skull needs a name. Alas, poor Yorick. We need to see. I mean, this is not gonna be us seeing the inside of Toby's house because we had to move out another day. But that might have to be a surprise for another day. Oh, and it's mushroom season. Mushroom season. Toby. Okay, let's go. Here we go. This is gonna be great. And then I have to figure out how to get their furniture off them, I think. I don't really know how to do that. Find out. Hi, Lionel. What's up? What'd you curse yesterday? That's right. That's what I thought. Keep walking. First off, house. Like, what is this? House. What? It's cute. It's a whole vibe. Oh my goodness. We're gonna have to. It's still gonna be like unpacking, so we're not gonna see everything. Graceful Annie, you have leveled up to Viscount and Viscount or Viscountess, depending on what you want. He's in box. Look at the wall. Oh, it's so cute it hurts. It is actually painful how cute that shit is. Hello, good sir? Humble what in the world? Yes, I did. Fame is very hard work. You're doing it. Oh, this is painfully cute and I love it. Hang on. But dude, I'm gonna be real rude and I'm gonna save inside your house because now I really want to see. Now I really want to see what the outside of your house looks like. Or what the inside of your house looks like. Oh, that was so damn cute. Does anybody kind of feel a little ill after how cute that was? Holy buckets. What the shit? I can't resist. I gotta know. I gots to know. Oh, I gotta cute this shit is now. Oh no. How cute is this? I'm like, I can kind of see it on the amiibo card. I gotta know how to get this furniture. Because I know that like the furniture and stuff is all exclusive. So cute. Just hanging out on the island. Being adorable. Oh my god. Help. Help me. I'm not ready for this. Not ready for this. Oh, hit the bell. Morning. It is seasonal. Mushrooms. Mushroom season. Mushroom pie. Can we make mushroom pie in the new cooking update? I'll fuck up like a mushroom quiche. Like, not gonna lie. It's super good. Like, Now I gotta make quiche. Now I gotta make, like, quiche. Because that'll be like a week worth of breakfasts. They're so tasty, and I know my kids will love. Oh, I gotta remember to do that. I gotta make quiche sometime soon. I think my Cuisinart's put away though. Ah, shoot. Just making a pie crust without a Cuisinart is just like, ugh. See this? Just this house. It's a cute house. Like. Okay, we gotta see. Like the mustard green, like the mustardy yellow green on the outside. I'm sorry, but this is the cutest shit. No, it's totally fine. Do your DIYs. What you doing? Oh, okay, I already have. I already have. Yes, I do. I cannot. Do you see this rug? Do you see this rug that my filthy boots are besmirching? Okay, I'll take it. Okay, it's good. How do I get your sheet? Yeah, I mean, iron cards are great. We're not gonna let. Look at this. This is the cricket thing that Steph was talking about. The little slide. Then you got this little thing. Can I touch. Excuse me, sir. I would like to buy all of your things off of you. So, Steph's recommendation, as per usual. Steph's batting record is ridiculous, and I can't with it right now because Toby may never leave. I need to figure out how to get his furniture and how to get his items. Alrighty, so I think that's all for me tonight. We might do some more tomorrow because there's just so much grinding to do before the update comes out. So might do some of that. I'm pretty sure that I can pre-order in like very shortly the DLC here. So probably gonna be doing that because we have a problem. I'm very excited about the DLC and everything that comes with it. So same time, same weird place. Probably gonna be more Animal Crossing. We'll see though. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I will see you tomorrow, 11 p.m. Pacific. There you go. You can figure it out from there. It's 10 p.m. my time. But that's when my kids go to sleep. So, good night, Beetle. Thank you for hanging out. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. We're not going to raid because I'm a giant chicken and almost nobody is awake now. So, I got to find some UK peeps that are up and like streaming at this time. Maybe someday. All right. Good night.